Well, let's move on. Asian Paints aims to become a 1 lakh crore revenue company in the next decade. These are the words coming in from company's MD and CEO, Amit Syngle, in a CNBC TV18 exclusive conversation with my colleague Mangalam Maloo. Mr. Syngle spoke about their growth outlook and opportunities in the home decor space. Listen in.
Last few years, we've really embarked in terms of giving the whole area of paint and coatings a very, very different kind of a zone, because we have started to kind of really look at saying that can we be part of the consumer decor life cycle.
You have waterproofing. What exactly is the total annual salience of waterproofing, and are you the biggest company right now when it comes to B2C waterproofing?
We got into the waterproofing zone because of the fact that we felt that customers were blaming everything on the paint, literally. And they did not have the knowledge of the substrate, which is so very critical in today's brick and mortar model, which is there in India in terms of making homes. We've been now into waterproofing for the last about almost 8 years, and the journey has been explosive. You know, we now are the #1 player in terms of the retail market. We've taken the whole positioning of being a lighthouse brand in terms of what we call as the smart care, which is there. And we look at really providing solutions to the customer and taking the mantle of saying that you are the expert in waterproofing.
With the kind of balance sheet that you have, with the kind of brand power that you have, I'm sure there will be a lot more bigger inorganic opportunities in the home decor space.
Absolutely. So as we are looking at going ahead, we are looking at offering almost everything which really goes into a home to that extent. And as I speak, we've got into lighting, we've got into UPVC doors and windows, we've got into wooden flooring, kitchen and bath is already with us, we've got into fabrics and furnishings as I look at it. And therefore, as we kind of go ahead, we are always on the lookout in terms of saying that is there something which really synergizes in terms of our strategy, in terms of making it big to that extent.
In 3 or 4 years from now, if I had to look at your revenue mix, how much would come from the decorative paint? Of course, a large chunk would be there, but you have 8 to 10% coming in from home decor. You have industrial, you have international, any other areas that you're seeding? I mean, how does the revenue mix of Asian Paints look?
So as I see it today, global is close to about 8 to 10% of our overall category. Industrial is about 4 to 5%, and we think that industrial would kind of really grow to about 7 to 8% in terms of going ahead to that extent. Decor is the other one in terms of which keeps on growing. And if you look at all the adjacencies which are there, you know, whether it is the whole area of waterproofing or it is the area of textures, which we have kind of bought in, which is there. But I think one area which would be an outlier in everything would be the whole area of the whole service brand.
Yes, okay. 650 cities is where you're at right now.
Yeah, so I think that's something which has been my personal kind of passion in a very strong way, because I think worldwide there was a challenge. You know, when I used to speak to international paint companies, people used to say, you know, service is not something which this industry is made for.
Numbers, joy and happiness is okay. Stock market wants numbers.
The number is 650 cities as we see it, okay.
Revenue?
In terms of revenue, we can't kind of reveal the revenue in terms of what is it. But I can tell you that our endeavor is that the service brand should become almost 10% of the overall revenue of Asian Paints as we kind of go ahead.
Next decade, the last decade, you've grown sales at little around low teens. Profits have grown around mid-teens. Your stock price has grown at around 20%. The next decade, with all the opportunities that you're seeing, you foresee that to continue?
I don't think so. We should just look at the year which has kind of gone by. But I think the journey forward is still very, very strong in terms of what I see. And as we kind of go ahead, and look at the next kind of decade, I think as an organization, we would kind of look at numbers which could be closer to about anywhere between 11 and 12 billion in terms of going ahead to that extent. And it's not coming only from paints and coatings, it's coming from all the categories we have created, the industrial sales as I spoke of, the home decor, the global business and so on and so forth. So I think it's going to be a combination of all this in terms of what we see. And given the fact that India is a very strong market for us and the kind of growth which we envisage of the GDP going forward, I think this should be a reality.
So I got my headline. I mean, over the next decade, looking at a 1 lakh crore top line for Asian Paints. You've also gone on this big capex spree, which is part of it backward integration, part of it building more capacity. In terms of products, 12% of your new revenue comes in from new innovative products. Promotions, you have said that you will increase your ad spends going forward. What does that mean in terms of quantitative benefits, in terms of margins, revenue, incremental, reach that you have? Give me numbers.
So, as I said, the area of new product and innovation, we have kind of done almost about 300 new products in the last about 7 years now, and they will continue to contribute to about 12 to 13% of our top line in terms of going forward. I think that is something which is a very, very strong source in terms of what we are bringing onto the table. We have looked at a lot of backward integration in terms of creating, capacities for something which possibly no competitor has done to that extent. So whether it is things like opacifiers, additives, and so on and so forth, which are a big sum of our raw material buy, I think all these will definitely add to about 1.5% of our overall margins going up as we kind of look at future. The third area, I think we are looking at bringing more and more automation into the game in terms of how we can look at being the best CPT across the organizations, and looking at therefore bringing our overall area of overheads to an improvement of about 1 or 2% of the total overall sales in terms of what we do to that extent. And finally, the area of brand equity, where we feel that today we would like to kind of have a market share of or a mind share of more than 85% in terms of going forward to that extent, so that we can look at influencing not only the bottom of the pyramid, but look at influencing the luxury space in the India, as we see more disposable incomes happening, more affluent families happening to that extent in terms of going forward.
Would you let that flow into your margins, or your margins will still remain in that 18 to 20% band, and the remainder goes into brand building, like you said?
So we would largely say that we would kind of retain the same band, okay, and look at really investing these into core areas of the organization, which will always keep it leaping ahead.
Which is your favorite Asian Paints ad?
One which I'm very fond of is what I literally created along with Ogilvy, was the Har Ghar. Okay, Har Ghar with Piyush's magic and his voice still remains one of the most remembered ads, and I think it's propelling the brand really very strongly, because Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai is the core of Asian Paints.
All right, a wholesome discussion there with Asian Paints. You can catch excerpts of that conversation all day today on CNBC TV 18.